So, a new movie released on Netflix, which isn't a new movie per se, but it's new to Netflix. And I knew that because I've seen just about every single horror and thriller movie Netflix has to offer at least once. And this one did not look familiar to me whatsoever. So, it's called Watcher. Not to be confused with The Watcher, the series on Netflix, or that movie about being watched in the forest that came out last June. There's a lot of movies about being watched, and rightfully so. It's a classic horror thriller premise, which doesn't really get old, especially when they implement new ideas into it, like they did with this particular film. So the premise, it's an interesting one. A psychological thriller which follows a woman who's an American actress that follows her husband to Romania. The actress Maika Monroe, who plays the character Julia, and her husband Carl Glusman, who plays Francis, go to Romania for her husband's new job opportunity. And shortly in, they start hearing about a man called Spider, who is a notorious serial killer in Romania that decapitates his victims. The movie does start out rather slowly. Like, I was thinking, where are we going with this? Is it just gonna be this guy? Is the husband involved? Because they put some elements into the story, and I'm not sure if it was just me. Let me know if you guys thought the same thing at some point during the movie. They throw some shadiness to the husband's character, where they make you think that he, although he may not be the actual killer, he has something to do with it. The fact that he brought her to Romania, the fact that he's always been a little bit shady, and there's a scene towards the end where he's speaking Romanian and she's learning Romanian at the same time, so she catches on to what he's saying, and he's saying some sketchy stuff. So they make you think throughout the movie. They give you little bits and pieces that make you think that the husband is the actual killer. And I was really hoping that wasn't the case, because so many of these movies, and not just the watching stalker type of thrillers, but so many of these thriller movies have the husband in the end be the actual killer. And that's such a played out premise that I was like, please don't let it be the husband again. And it wasn't. It wasn't. Spoiler alert, it was not. Thankfully so. So Julia, she is living her life in Romania. She's bored, so she people watches outside of their enormous window. She sees across the street a shadowy figure looking back at her. Now, she can only see this person at night, because that's the only time that the light is appropriate for her to actually see a person looking back at her from that distance. It's so far away that she can't make out the person's facial features or anything like that, but she does see a person in the window. Us, the viewers, and also, to my belief, herself, Julia, and her husband, they at a point think that she's kind of going crazy, maybe because she's so thrown off by the move. You get to think that maybe this is all in her head, and maybe she's the stalker, and maybe she is stalking the actual stalker. That's how I felt for a large part of the movie, that she was just going crazy. And that's another premise that I've seen before, while not as common as the husband being the killer. That is another premise that is a bit played out, is that the woman is actually just going crazy, and he is not really being stalked. So later on in the movie, after we see the Watcher follow her to the theater, right? And then we see him sit directly behind her. And then also we see him follow her shortly after into the supermarket and just watch her and just creepily follow her every move. Even when she hides behind in the employees only section, he's looking right back at her through the little window in the door. And this really caught my attention right there, because I was like, this is actually the build-up. While it's slow and some people might get bored at that point, the build-up really pays off at the end. And that's what I look forward. That's what I look for in these type of movies. The slow burn, the build-up, right? Because you need that tension to rise. And especially in an hour-and-a-half long movie where there's not that much time, like a series or a 3-hour movie, for instance, for the tension and the plot to really seep into you. This did its job in an hour and a half, and I'm really impressed by the movie. So there comes a point in the movie where even after all of that, They go to the security guard, and they get the footage, and they see him looking back at her through the window. But there's not really enough proof that this person is actually stalking her. He could just be going to the grocery store. She gets to believing that maybe this really is all in her head. And she sees this person again later that night looking back at her, or so she thinks, through the window across the street. So she does a little test. She waves at him, right? Because you can't see exactly where this person is looking. He's very far away. She waves at him. And then a bit later, it takes a while. It gets to the point where you think maybe he's not actually watching her. But then slowly but surely, you see him slowly raise his hand up like this, right? If you watch horror movies, that's when you know that this guy is actually who we think he is. So she has a neighbor, right? The neighbor is, oh, what is her name? I can't remember her name, but she's works at a club, the same club that the serial killer works at. At a point, she hears screaming coming from her room, the neighbor's room. She knocks on the door. She goes in, let in by the landlord, and nobody's in there. And I'm thinking, what the hell is happening? Because we just heard that, right? But it'd be so odd for him to be killing somebody right next door to his victim. That's what I thought. I thought maybe that this person, that her friend, actually had something to do with the murders as well. She was a bad guy. And I think that's where they want you to take. They want you to be so unsure of where this is going. After a while, the police get involved. The police go over to his place, knock on his door, whatever, and then he flips the script a little later in the movie, and he brings the police to her door, and he's like, why? He says, tell her to please stop stalking me. So he flips the script and makes you believe even more that she is the crazy one. And he seems actually fairly convincing. Just an odd guy who, you know, is like, why is this woman following me around everywhere? Then it comes to the train scene. And this is my favorite scene in the entire movie. Beyond even the final scene, right? And I do have my gripes. I'll get to that. I do have some confusion and some parts of the movie that I did not like, and we'll get to that very soon. And I have dropped spoilers before in this review, but let it be known right now, moving forward are real big spoilers for the movie. So if you don't want to know how it ends and stuff, skip away now. She goes on a train. She takes a train, taking the train home, and he, the killer, he's on the train car next to her. He sees her sitting down, kind of like avoiding him. So he takes the initiative to walk up to her and sit across from her and explain his side of the story, right? A lonely guy, and he saw her looking back at him through the window, and she waved, and he waved back, and he was like, you know, I'm in love. They were getting at something like that, right? He saw a pretty girl wave across from him, and he didn't know what to do. He just didn't know how to act, right? So that kind of makes sense. And at that exact moment, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe it is the husband, or maybe she's crazy. One of those two things. Then it pans to the bag that he has in his hand. It's like a Chinese food bag type of thing, or a grocery store bag. Little smiley face on it. Doesn't really matter. But they zoom in, and they see her. You can't really exactly make out what's in it. I'm getting shivers just talking about this. You can't exactly make out what's in it, but you see what looks like a head, right? And you see the panic on her face. And you gotta figure that this guy knows what she's looking at, right? Because she's looking down like this, and he's got a head in the bag, and you gotta figure that he knows that she knows at that point. Even though he's continuing to prove his case, you gotta figure that he knows that she knows at that point. She runs the hell out of there, as anyone rightfully should. Because even if he wasn't the killer, he's got a damn human's head in his plastic bag, and that's a little bit strange. She gets home, her husband's not home. I haven't mentioned that much, but he's always at work, which makes you think again that he's the killer. She hears music playing from the neighbor's room, so she knocks, and just opens the door. That's when you see it. You see her in the chair, decapitated. And that's when you see the killer. Yeah, a real full circle right there. The whole time when she walked in before and heard her screaming, the whole time he was there with her. She was not killed yet. He was there with her in the closet, hiding from them. Her, the landlord, the neighbors, everybody. He was in there at the same time, which is even freakier. So, okay, now this is the only real part of the movie that bothers me and confuses me at the same time. She gets her throat slit because she tries to yell, and that would have happened anyway. So, she gets her throat slit. She's bleeding like enormous amounts of blood, right? You see her trying to crawl with her last breath, her last energy. You see her trying to crawl, like army crawl, to the gun drawer to grab the gun to kill him, right? Even if she's gonna die, she wants to kill him and take him with her. And you just see her not able to do that. She falls over and blood starts pouring out of her neck. Then what happens is Francis calls his wife, and he hears the phone ring from next door, right? And that's when he walks out and goes to walk over to see her, to find her, and he sees the killer, Spider, walk out the door at the exact same time. Now, this had to be a huge revelation for him because he thought his wife was crazy. As the viewer, you don't know what's gonna happen here. You think maybe Francis is gonna die. You think maybe Francis is gonna kill him. But then you see Julia shoot him several times, and it's not even like she's like, ugh, like with her last breath shooting him. She's standing up with her neck fully slit, blood, half the blood of her body going from her. And she's standing up, shooting him several times to his death. He dies. And that's just where the movie ends. Right there. Now, that's my issue. Even if she stood up, shot him, and then fell back over, alright, still a little bit unrealistic, but, you know, the fact that she presumably survives, we don't know that for sure. They left it up to speculation, but the fact that she presumably survives that is a bit too far-fetched for my liking. I mean, if I'm missing something, and I could be, let me know in the comments. I really could be missing something. I hope I am, because it just seems so unusual. But yeah, the fact that they had her live after the amount of blood that was coming from her body when she was laying on the floor, it just a little bit, the whole movie was what's within the realm of realism. And then that just completely wipes all of that realisticness away, you know? So that's my only gripe with that movie. Again, awesome movie. If you guys haven't seen it, I wish you did not watch the spoilers, but if you haven't and you don't care about spoilers, still awesome movie to watch. I highly recommend it. One of my favorite horror movies of the year. And not even that I've seen in a while, at least on Netflix. And especially a thriller-esque movie, because it's not really horror. A thriller-esque movie, one of the best that I've seen in a while. So I would definitely recommend it. I'd give it a solid 8.9. It was really good. 9, yeah, 8.9. We're gonna stick with that. 8.9 is very good. Very good movie. Yeah, but if you guys haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. I just started this channel, so hoping to see big things come out of it. If it does start doing well, I'm gonna put so much more work into these videos. As of right now, I don't have the funds to do it because of it being a relatively new channel, and I have all the other channels to work on at the same time. But if this one starts doing well, I'm going to put so much work into these videos. You'll love to see them. I'll love to do it. And yeah, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe. Peace.